Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, here for round 11 of Season 3. It's the Singapore Grand Prix, and hopefully we can actually win this race and not make a stupid strategy decision as we did in Monza. If you haven't watched this episode, if you haven't watched that episode, do go check it out. It was an interesting race for many reasons, but hopefully this one can be better. As we move straight into qualifying, into Q3, obviously we're getting through into Q3 at Singapore. You know, it is one of my favourite tracks on this game. As our first banker run is a 30.3, which gets us pretty close to Daniel's pole position time. Obviously, Daniel is not going out again at the end of the session for some reason, which I discussed in the last episode. So, providing we can keep this car nailed to the ground, not invalidate and not hit the wall, we will get pole. But obviously we've got to do that, and it means we get very close there at the exit of turn 5, I believe, to hitting the wall. Now as we go through into the first sector split, we are 5 thousandths down on our previous best time, but as we go through the more technical parts of the track, these fresh softs should give us a considerable advantage. What I can tell you, it is raining for the race, so obviously it doesn't really matter what tyre I start on or qualifying in Q2, because we're starting on intermediates. And as we're going through the hairpin here, taking a nice line, Singapore is a nice track to drive in normal cars, let alone in a Season 3 car that just turns on a knife point and so planted to the ground. And as we go into the middle sector split, we're 5 tenths down on Ricciardo, because that's where his AI makes up the most time. But into the final sector, this is where we make up the most time, and we are currently on course to beat him. Not by much though, we're only a tenth and a half up. There's half a tenth gap between myself and Ricciardo at the moment as we go through the final chicane. Only 2 more corners left to navigate. We're 2 tenths up. Make sure not to invalidate as we go round the final corner, which we don't. And we're going to improve by 1.7 tenths. We go purple in the final sector, and that's going to net us pole position. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent lap to get pole by over a tenth, but a lot more was definitely on the lap. We went red in the first sector, green in the second, and purple in the third, so a lot more time to find. I reckon we could have got into the 29s in qualifying, but it wasn't to be. Luckily, it's raining in the race, then it's going to move towards dry conditions at the end. So, yeah, we should hopefully have a decent run, because we're liking wet weather conditions, especially around Singapore. Let's hope for some good luck, and I'll join you for the start of the race.
Here we go then, it's Formula 1 in Marina Bay once again, and welcome to all of you at home who join us today for this fascinating race around the baking hot, horribly humid, but very streets of Singapore. We have a high risk of a safety car here today, as the abundance of tight corners mixed with these wet conditions could put a few cars off into the barriers. Also joins me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about Red. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances, but what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another great race today.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Red lines up on pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo. A strong showing from the Australian. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Hamilton, Daniel Kvyat and Perez, Matsushita, Leclerc, Norris and Jacquet, Verstappen, Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Albon, Ocon, Magnussen, Lance Stroll and George Russell, De Vries, Giovinazzi, Grosjean and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So here we are getting ready for the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. As you can see, it says the last 7th of the race is in full wet conditions. Now, the setup I'm running, I guess the reason I was a bit slow in qualifying is because it is more geared towards a wet weather setup. Obviously the race is in the wet, so I wanted to be prepared for that as much as possible. Under fueling car really heavily, because we don't want to carry excess fuel around. We've got 5 red lights, and it's lights out and away we go for the Singapore Grand Prix. A very, very nice launch compared to Ricciardo. Gets absolutely shocking one, gets overtaken by Bottas before even getting to turn 1. So that's definitely going to help us out a little bit, and now we need to push as hard as possible. So we have a very oversteery setup, and as you can see, they're sliding the car through turn 3. We need to push as much as possible and get the gap out to Valtteri behind, because once Ricciardo settles into the groove, he's going to be a lot quicker than Bottas. So we need to make hay while the sun shines, even though it's not really shining at the moment, but yeah, you know what I mean. As we go through the first sector, nearly 7.5 tenths up on Valtteri. Obviously the AI have got some good top speed. We are running 11.11 wings, which if you saw my FTR Singapore video, is a double-edged sword really. It gives me really good pace in the wet, but it's very difficult to overtake cars and keep cars behind that are running even one click lower downforce than you. But luckily we're very quick through this middle part of the lap, as you can see there. Well, 1.5 seconds up on Bottas, and it's probably going to extend to at least 2 seconds by the end of the first lap, and as literally nothing happens. And as we come to lap 12, 24 seconds ahead of Bottas. Ricciardo, whether he's running the same setup as me, has not been able to get past Valtteri, which is very interesting, because that means we effectively now have a pit stop over them. And as we come into the pits on lap 17, we pushed our inters so far into this race to the point where we're going to check on the tyre wear monitor hit 87% on the rear right, and we did not get a puncture. That's absolutely insane. But yeah, Ricciardo has made a massive error in judgment here, because he pitted, and I was constantly asking Jeff. It got to the time about lap 15 where I needed to pit for another set of inters if it was going to rain the entire race, that it was like so I decided I'm going to stick it out and see if we can change onto the dries, which we're able to do. But Valtteri, Leclerc, Matsushita haven't done that, and Ricciardo has. So Ricciardo's now in P5 on track, and it looks like he's running quite low down, or quite high downforce, so it's going to be difficult for him to overtake. And as we're going to be setting in as the fastest laps now because the track is dry. The interesting thing here is, as Checo Perez is out of the session now, we've got a safety car. Ricciardo has actually lost more positions because he pitted in the same lap we did, so he would have got held, because this game can't double stack even in 2021 rather. And even when Ricciardo's 30 seconds behind, the team apparently don't have enough time to prepare, so that's interesting. Anyway, we're going to be coming in as we just get the car slowed down for a set of the softs. We have plenty of time to Bottas behind to do this. We're going to do this to cover off any potential threats to our fastest lap. Obviously we need to pick up from the pretty disappointing past 3 races we've had and get a good result. So far Ricciardo is in 9th at the moment, so we're putting on a set of the softs. Obviously this just, if Valtteri pits, he's going to be on softs as well, but it's not going to really make any difference if he doesn't pit. So yeah, this is pretty much a should win if we don't get any damage or bin the car anywhere, or like a million penalties, but I don't think we will, as we've only got to do 7 or 6 laps on these softs when we come over the line, and we decide to go now at the end of the safety car. And so we're going to try and bolt away as much as possible. Obviously we want to get out the DRS, but we have 2 laps in which to do that, and I'm really not overly worried given how quick this car is in the middle sector. As you can see, through the first sequence of corners alone, we've pulled 7 tenths over Bottas. So I think you can all guess where this is going. Once again, it's been a pretty dull race. I guess to the point where I'm getting bored of doing 50% races this far in front. As you can see, this is going to be our fastest lap of the race. We're 2 seconds faster in the first sector alone, because use softs at Singapore. And yeah, in the first lap of green flag running, we pulled 3 seconds over Valtteri. We improved on our previous best lap time by 8 seconds. Yeah, it's pretty insane. But that was the race. We picked up a little bit of damage on the front wing because we're pushing too hard, I guess. We also got a 3-second time penalty, but it's not going to affect our position. We're going to come home to win the race, get fastest lap, lead every lap, get pole, the triple crown, the Grand Chelem, whatever you want to call it. And Ricciardo comes home in 6th, so massive implications for his championship challenge, and good way to pick ourselves up after the pretty poor previous 3 races.
Making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula One.
So that was the race. Ricciardo actually comes home in P5, only just though, getting ahead of Leclerc maybe on like the last lap or the last corner or something. So we've pulled 16 points over him, and if my maths is correct, I believe that makes up for the past 2 rounds of what we've lost to Daniel, as we lost 6 points in Italy. And we lost, I think, also 6 points in Belgium. So nearly enough for the past 2 races. But what's important is we won the race. We got the maximum amount of points. This race is what we could have done. As you can see, Ricciardo doing an extra stop hampered him massively. Obviously, we did the same amount, but we had enough time to pit for a set of softs at the end. So yeah, it was a good race. We extend the gap to 28 points now in the drivers with only 5 races remaining. So Ricciardo needs to get his finger out and needs to start thinking a bit more. I mean, I guess that's sort of the circle has been completed now. We made a strategy error in Italy. He's made a strategy error in Singapore. But this time, due to the nature of the track, it was a lot more potent, his poor strategy decision. But luckily that it benefits us massively, and it gives us at least a one race buffer if we don't score any points in the next race, which will be the Russian Grand Prix, and after that will be Japan. So I'm sort of expecting that after those 2 rounds I will have lost 16 points to Ricciardo, as I'm not expecting to beat him in either of those races, just because of they're not my favourite tracks. And I feel like the AI is pretty strong around there, as was proven in previous seasons. We're choosing a new sponsor now, and I'm about to make a really bad decision on the sponsor, because I'm looking here at ones that we could do quite well, and we're going to go for Monet Paris. That's probably a really bad pronunciation of it, but I looked at this and I thought this is going to be a pretty easy 400k gold bonus every single race. But no, because it doesn't specify that you can't do that when you're the fastest car. So, I mean, I guess I should have probably actually thought about that when it came to it, because, logic would dictate that as the faster car, we can't actually do that. So that's going to be a waste of a sponsor bonus of like 500,000 per race, pretty much. But I guess 50-50 on the blind there, I'd say, because Codemaster should grey it out when you're the fastest car. But hey, anyway, that was the race. Pretty uneventful, really, apart from the safety car. The safety car hadn't have come, we'd have still pitted for softs on lap 29 to go for the fastest lap at the very last lap. And we'd have probably won by like over a minute, I reckon. Our pace was just so strong. I mean, the fact that we were 2 seconds of that faster in the wet conditions at the start of the race is just pretty insane. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you for some more F1 2020 content very soon.